You're tuned in to RX Radio.
I've missed this part of it's ceremonial at this point.
I think so. And I'm back. I like
Yeah.
being missed. It's very odd to get criticized for being busy. But I think I want to
Mm.
call attention to something. You and I are
Yes.
not podcasters.
No.
We have a podcast.
Right.
And I've started to listen almost exclusively to people who have podcasts.
Mm.
And I stopped listening to podcasters
It's
because
no Joe
all
Rogan.
podcasters do is talk.
Yeah.
So Joe seems a little bit different, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because he has enough money to be both. Because he can do stuff, and like he can go. He owns a
Mm.
comedy club. He commentates the UFC. He does stand up comedy and does tours. I'm sure and does specials for like Netflix and shit. So like, you're allowed to talk only if you do a certain amount of stuff. But if the only thing you do is talk, there's a depreciating return on the quality of what you can offer me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like one thing I want to make. I don't want to say I want to make clear because I feel like people who listen to the podcast regularly, they fuck with us. For those of you who are just joining for the first time, welcome to RX Radio. I'm Jordan. That's Jordan.
Yes.
And we do stuff. And maybe that's the slogan or tagline of the podcast, RX Radio. We do stuff.
Yeah.
Because
I'm busy doing stuff.
yeah, I do stuff. And that's one of for those of you just joining us, Jordan and Jordan own an education company called Prescript that we've owned for almost a decade now. And it's something that I make sure at the beginning of every semester, I lay that out there. I go, look, a reason this isn't in 10K on some sound stage getting filmed and highly edited and produced is because I'm still practicing. Like we are still every day, doing the thing. I was 5 minutes late today because I had a client, and I have clients, and you have clients,
Yes.
and we could tell you about how our clients have changed over the years, like what our first clients were and what our most recent clients are, and it's just like I really struggle with podcasts in the fitness space because it's a verb. It's an action. Like our job is an action. Like
Mm.
and you know this a little bit about me. Like I have a soft spot for philosophy and theology, and those make podcasters in that space amazing. Because that's what it is. That's what philosophy is just talking about shit. Right? Like I listened to a 7-hour podcast on solipsism the other day because that's what solipsism is. It's just a bunch of shit that you need to think
I've
about.
never heard that word before.
Solipsism is wild, dog. I got 80 grams of mushrooms in this hotel right now, and we'll come split it down the middle, and I'll explain solipsism to you. But it's just
Sick.
like, philosophy podcasts make sense, right? It's
Right.
just people talking about shit. That's what philosophy is. History podcast makes sense. Fitness podcast, like, why do people's brains not kind of go, huh? What do you mean fitness podcast? And it's like at the very fucking least, if you're gonna do a fitness podcast, like work in the industry,
Mm.
have something worth talking. Like I finished up with a client 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. This is as close to the source as I can get, other than a shout out LA, who just takes calls from training clients. Like
Yeah, it's
I can't do
hilarious.
the podcast while training my client, but I will do it immediately after.
Right.
Wild out
Yeah.
there. So I am not a podcaster. So excuse my absence when I'm gone. Excuse Jay's absence when he is gone, because we're doing the thing.
We're doing the thing. Yeah. Yeah. We're here to talk about the thing, but there's practice, there's theory, there's application, and 2/3 of those things we can't do when we're here.
Yes. So you ripped a Q&A. Is that what we're after?
I did rip a Q&A, and I lost all the cues, but I got them right
Nice.
here. This is a homie, Steve.Spriggs_32. Great weightlifter. Been following each other for years. But this is one from him, where I think it's good enough to do a whole podcast on. So he asks, for general fitness, with no limitations, what determines exercise selection for you?
Mm.
It's a very broad question. But I mean, I like that. I like that there's just kind of no limitations. Just is because this is where my thought process starts every time I work with the client. It's like, all right, in an ideal situation, like how is this going to go? And I'll form a skeleton from there, and then from there, you kind of make edits based off of the reality of the situation, right? So as I'm starting to think about exercise selection, there's a pretty solid template that I'll follow at least, or that I'll try and start the framework of programming with. And then from there, the changes become specific to what you're dealing with in real time, in reality, as the variables change. So, like, very generally, we can talk like you're going to go into warm up. Then from there, you're going to go into higher skill things. From there, lower skill output based things. And then from there, like more sort of accessory type movements. And that's like general outline, as general as it gets. And then the things that I want to overlay on top of that, where I'm going to start to look at, all right, these are going to influence my decisions for specific exercises or specific modalities or energy systems that we want to train, are going to be the overarching thing for every decision I make is, what is the end goal here? Right? Is this is okay, healthy person, no limitations, but like they're obviously at a point and they're hiring you to get them to another point. So I need to know what that destination is. I need to know where they're going and I need to know where they're starting. So goals are super important to me because that's something you can always relate back to. And that's going to be the thing that should guide your decision making around what you're doing on a given day, given the variables that you have in front of you. Aside from that, the other thing that I'm going to look at is their skill level, right? Is there's if they're getting to somewhere that they've never been or they need to hire someone to take them there, there's probably some sort of disconnect in their current skill level, their ability to coordinate and apply specific skills and adaptations and movement patterns, or their level of awareness from where they're at and where they want to go. So skill level to me is going to be really important in terms of ranking. Like, I have people that their exercise or their warm-ups are like, all right, we're going to do muscle snatches and tall snatches. And then I have people, because of their skill level and their goals, like their warm-ups are going to be scapula push-ups and foam roller wall slides. So I have people on any end of the spectrum, but just because someone's healthy doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to coordinate specific things. And training to me as a trainer, like just like what we do at Prescript, it is an education process. Like, we have to get people to learn how to coordinate their body, how to use a shoulder, how to use a hip, how to use a hip and a shoulder together. Like, that's in a nutshell what we do as trainers, is like coordinating movement patterns. So depending on where they're at, their goals, their skill level, that's how I'm going to start to fine tune exercise selection for a specific individual.
I think I'm going to take that a level abstract, and I'm going to say, because what was the question again? How did he word it?
Yeah, I'll read it verbatim here. Um, Give me 2 seconds because I keep closing my phone. For general fitness with no limitations, what determines exercise selection for you?
Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to interpret this the wrong way because I think when he said determine exercise selection, the more I do this, the more if everyone knows consistency is the end goal, right? Like consistency is the thing that's going to get us to the goal. Then the thing adjacent to consistency is enjoyment.
Mm,
Like the number of conversations that I've had with people, like, and here it blows my mind. Fitness is such an interesting place to work because, human sciences are inexact at best. And my sister's a physician. She works in an OR. Like, I have friends up and down the medical community at every level. And it is inexact. No one has all the answers.
Mhm.
which makes it different than mathematics, right? Like, unless you're Terrence Howard and you've smoked 10 bowls and he was on some 2 + 2 = 5 or whatever the fuck his deal was. It's like, that's a very conclusive science. But human science is really an exact science. If we can all pass around the peace pipe and agree that consistency is going to be the thing, right? Like, if we can stay consistent, then we will reach our general fitness goals, right? Just, whatever that is, lifespan, health span, ability to just do a bunch of shit, like go on a walk, pick up the kids, whatever. Then enjoyment really becomes one of the first things that we have to prioritize.
Yeah.
Because, I had a conversation with a really close friend of mine, his wife, last night. And it was, after scrolling through a few TikTok health influencers that she followed, I realized that I was in the wrong place having the conversation.
Mhm.
Like, I'm sitting here talking about just real basic, like, macronutrients, protein intake, and you gotta bitch on TikTok churn and butter. And I was like, what? We're not. Whoa, hold on a second. Like, we're not even in the same place. We're not talking the same language. Like, this, I need to meet you where you're at. And fitness is, because it is an inexact science. It leaves the door open for belief. And I'm just gonna say it. And I'll keep it in the realm of fitness, and let's just leave it at that. People believe some crazy shit. People believe, like, the equivalent of, like, what the rest of the world would deem as, like, the tooth fairy. Like, that's how irrational some people's beliefs are, and they hold it on zero evidence. They
Mhm.
hold these beliefs because that's what a belief is. A belief is acting in a way consistent with a thought that you arrive to from insufficient evidence. Like, that's why we have the word belief and not know, because knowing there's a rubric of knowing. These things have to be present for us to know something. Oh,
Right.
they're not present. Oh, we're just going to believe, like the tooth fairy. And it was like arguing, and I shouldn't have done this, but I did, because I'm an indulgent asshole who just jumped at the opportunity to try and prove that at like at a philosophical level, like, you are wrong to believe this because you think your belief is a known fact. And you can't conflate these two things as a worldview. You're going to run into a bunch of walls in your life if you go around thinking that your beliefs are true, right? If you understand, like, I believe in whatever, because it makes you feel good. Okay, great. But, like, feeling good and then having, like, immaculate blood work, or, forecasting a healthy life a decade from now, are two totally different things. So the more that I do this, and the more that I'm, like, peel back, and it may be not even fair to the realm of the question because I think I'm being too abstract, but it's a fucking third rail that I keep running into, and it's this enjoyment factor of, because, like, you and I, for those of you following along at home, that's what's left of a cold turkey burger covered in barbecue sauce. It's 5:45 p.m. on a Saturday. I've had a protein shake and a pound of cold shrimp and this, right? I don't know what enjoyment is. I have no idea what that word means, right? I got up today, I slammed back 2 5-hour energies, I walked to the gym, I trained, my shoulders were sore the entire time, like bad old man shoulder sore. I showered, went to work, came back, turned this thing on, chugged an orange crush zero sugar thing, and ate a turkey breast covered it. So it's like, I don't care. Like, enjoyment is getting to be to, like, the result is enjoyment. People don't care, right? People care about enjoying the process, which, like, blows my mind. So I think, like, when you're approaching, and you mentioned something about goal setting that I think is in line with this idea of enjoyment, because I think a lot of people's goals is to enjoy the process, right? If
Mhm.
someone has this sort of nebulous, like, they start using the words like fitness in general, and it's like, okay, if I don't have a physique or a weight on a bar that's going to give me enjoyment once I achieve it, then enjoyment has to be found somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether maybe it's the social circle that you partake your particular brand of exercise the part that Orange Theory, F45, berries or whatever. It's like, okay, like, is that what we're optimizing for? Because you will figure out what people prioritize really quickly if you go in with just this general approach. Because if they don't like something and they don't have a goal that they're working towards, then enjoyment becomes the goal. And then
Yeah.
without enjoyment, the goal will never be realized because it won't be consistent enough to show up every day and do something they don't like.
Yeah.
Right? I will show up every day and do something that I don't like. Think I fucking like this? I just set the record in this hotel in New York for the longest stay. It's like, I don't enjoy that. I enjoy the outcome. But if you don't have an outcome to orient yourself towards, you need to be very mindful of, like, okay, what is it that's going to get this person's attention on every single day? And
Mhm.
look, sometimes that is by way of exercise selection. I like kettlebells. I did Pilates in the past. I like group fitness. Maybe my partner can come. I like, good, yes, whatever, paddle, whatever. Like, I'm too bad at tennis, but I'm too big to play ping pong on the table. Like, I don't know what your fucking deal is, right? But some people I train that just play paddle now, and they got strong enough so they could play paddle and not get hurt, and then they go play paddle or pickleball, whatever the fuck it is. So I think something to consider when you deal with the general is okay. The consistency is going to be the hardest thing with this person, because they've likely tried, a handful of things, and someone tried to implant a goal into this very general system and it didn't work.
Mhm.
So what are they going to enjoy? And I think that's that for me. And I'm living a little bit of that right now, as you can tell by my frustrations.
I can tell.
But it's because it's so hard to not understand. Like, I even brought up what you said to me years ago that I probably brought up 100 times since. It's like, some people don't want to get better. And I was
It's
like,
so
what
frustrating.
the fuck are you talking about? And you're like, yeah, dude, I swear to God, I've met people who don't want to get better. It's like, no. You're like, yeah. So it's like, okay, fine. Maybe they don't want to get stronger. Maybe they don't want to get bigger. Maybe they don't want to get leaner. Maybe they just want someone to entertain them as the days go past. And it's like, okay, we can do that and start to move the mile marker, right? So it's that I think is something that we need to consider as a system to optimize for if we're going to really do this job well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And to me, like, that revolves around maybe two things: is getting buy-in and like prioritizing their preferences around what they're doing. Right. Is you have to make this somehow enjoyable so that they come back the next time and the next time and the next time. Because honestly, someone like that doesn't have any fitness specific goals, the best thing for them, like, projecting this, because all right, if you're not going to tell me what you want to do, because I've had clients like that I'm like, all right, like, what are your goals? And like, oh, I I don't know. Like, they don't know enough to know what their goals are. You kind of have to project goals for them, or else there's no like real progression. There's no real rhyme or reason that you can logically think of to take them through any sort of progression, or like get them better at anything, because they're not really setting a framework here. There's like, all right, we want to get from point A to point B, but like, we know where point A is. There's no point B. So like, you kind of need to dictate that for them. So I've had plenty of these clients in the past where it's like, all right, like, you don't know enough to actually set goals for yourself. So I'm going to set goals for you. But the thing about that is, it's okay, that's irrelevant to them. Like, they're just showing up to do what you tell them to do, but you have to get them to keep coming back. Like, you need to get some sort of buy-in. You need to get them to enjoy the process enough where they're like, all right, this is beneficial to me because XYZ. So a lot of times that comes from just like conversations. Is you start with like, okay, like, we've done our assessment. I know how you move. I know areas in which you can improve on. Okay, cool. That gives me at least some sort of idea of how I can start to organize a training plan that will be beneficial for this person. Now, what I need to fit into that and what I need to do some work on is, we have some sort of, just general guidelines of where we're going to start, and in a direction that I've determined, because they don't have the knowledge or the understanding to know like what this fitness thing, or where it can take them, or how it can improve their life. So I need to talk to them, and I need to pull as much information out of them to figure out what is actually important to them. And then how can I relate the thing that we're doing to the thing that's important to them? And that's where you can start to get some buy-in around doing exercise that they're not going to like doing. because they're going to feel bad and they're going to get sore and they're going to have a hard time doing it. And it's going to feel really uncomfortable for someone with really ill-defined goals that doesn't know how this relates to getting them better at anything. They're just going to like, oh, yeah, I went to that trainer and my legs were sore for like 3 days. Like, fuck that guy. That guy sucks. But if you can figure out things that they want to do, maybe it's pickleball, maybe it's hiking on the weekends, maybe it's getting out of bed without pain. And like, you can identify things that, even if it's not things that they like doing at first, if it's things that they hate that are happening, like, oh yeah, my fucking knee, every time I go down the stairs in the morning, like it's killing me. Like, if you can make predictions and be like, all right, like this is an exercise that I think is going to help your knee to feel better in the mornings, and you can deliver on that, then like, all right, you've now set a goal for them for to give yourself some sort of framework to work off of. Like, let's go through this progression and just remind them every single day how they're, get a read on how is your knee feeling today, or like how did it feel when you got out of bed, or whatever it is. Like, keep that in the forefront of their mind, because these are the things that people won't logically make these correlations, right? They'll think like, oh, like they won't even realize that their knee doesn't hurt until you tell them that their knee doesn't hurt, and you tell them that the reason their knee doesn't hurt is because we've been doing this exercise they hate doing for the last 3-4 weeks. So that's something that I'll try and do really early on. It's like, all right, if you have no well-defined goals, I need to figure out something that's going to get buy-in around this process. And I need to figure out something that's going to be preferential to you so that I can put that in here so you have a good time. Like, I'll never forget. And it's actually the client that like was the reason that I said that to you, that not all people want to get better. Like, it's so frustrating for me. It was a fucking architect that lived this like super cushy life, and he was like a super artsy person, like not one athletic bone in his body, but like he just knew that he was getting out of shape and he didn't know how to get into shape. And he just wanted to do bicep curls. Like, that's all he wanted to do. And I'm like, all
Respect.
right, let's do these 3 things first, and then we'll rip 5 sets of bicep curls at the end. And he's like, all right, fine. And and he just fucking wanted to do bicep curls. I'm like, all right, we found something that, he prefers to do, he gets enjoyment out of, and like, he sees a benefit in. Like, he would like look at his arms, and he would like look at his posture and stuff, and he'd be like, yeah, it looks like my posture is getting better, like I feel more muscular. I'm like, all right, well, that's our goal, and that's going to dictate our exercise selection, because that's the thing that's going to keep you coming back, and that's the thing that's going to, get you to feel like the investment you're making into this process is paying off. And it's like, the 4 exercises we're doing that aren't bicep curls are actually making the difference, but it's the bicep curls that in his mind, like, oh no, this is the thing I got to keep doing.
One of the things you mentioned in kind of like your more formal direct response to the question about like where do you start on exercise selection for someone with general fitness goals was like meeting them to where they're at on a skill level component. And I think is that opens the door for so many technical and tactical wins.
Mm.
And the technical wins should be obvious. Like, you meet someone where they're at by giving them exercises that, maybe are an olive branch away from them being able to actually perform. Maybe
Yes.
they don't have the coordination abilities or the exposure to these movements, but, you're a good enough coach and you can cue and constrain enough to be like, okay, I can get this person to squat in 4 or 5 sessions if I do this progression or whatever. And I think the reason that's so important, and it leaves it to me is the be all end all when it comes to the conversation around like personalized exercise selection, is what that does when you personalize someone's exercise selection to really fit that skill window that they're moving within. What that actually does is it puts you in an opportunity to start celebrating wins right away.
Yes.
And that's where let me tell you, friends at home, is where the fucking money's at.
Yeah.
Like, you and I have trained some ridiculous people in some ridiculous places. And I can say personally that has been a very catalyzing realization to my practice. Is the key to meeting people where they're at for me originally was like, oh, I can get this person stronger. But then you fucking threw a hand grenade in my brain because of this stupid dumb architect. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but like,
Yeah, he's all right.
and he's okay. He's obviously not a fan of the show. Um, but you threw, and I was like, oh, okay. But I still did it anyways. And I tried to like get people hype on getting stronger. And some people do. Some people are like, oh, fuck yeah. And they get engaged, and that's great. But I struggled for a time after that for the people who never gave a fuck. Like, oh, did I do that much? It's like, what? Yeah, dude, you're up like fucking 20 pounds on this lift in like 3 weeks. Are you joking me? Like, I should get the Nobel Prize for training. Like, you're fucking, this, what a joke this is. But what I was able to do or adopt is like, okay, even though they may be 20 pounds heavier on a particular lift, because I met them where they're at with proper exercise selection and progression, there's like qualitative wins that we have to make along the way where they acquire the skill necessary to be efficient enough in moving to move this weight that's heavier. I love the heavier piece. I used to compete and organize my entire life around getting more weight on a bar.
Yep.
And in a way where most people are like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up. But most people like the idea of better, right? The qualitative pursuit of better. And so if you do this properly and you do bespoke, tailor, custom make exercise programming to the individual, you leave yourself with such an opportunity, if you choose to take it, to celebrate wins all day, every week. And who doesn't love just getting? Have you ever seen this? I fucking hate that I've come across this, but I think I actually follow him now. He's a guy who wears a purple robe and like just gives people like the oddest compliments with like this British accent. Have you seen this Instagram account?
No.
I wouldn't even know. I don't even know what his fucking name is, but he shows up and I watch all of it. I think it's just, he'll be walking down the street with his arms like kind of crossed behind his back. And he's got this like cigar jacket on, this like purple cigar jacket. And he's like very well presented. He's got like a scarf and all that. And I think he's British. Yeah, he must be British. And people will walk by and he'll just like say like these compliments to them, but like they're not compliments that you'd expect. It's I can't even think of one off the top of my head. You look like you were the valedictorian of your class. Great job. You're the valedictorian of this sidewalk. And just like keep going. And then people are kind of like, what? And it's like people get a laugh and it's like, but I'm like, yeah, that. Like everything from like nice shoes to, hey, that set looked really good. Really? It's like, you know, when you train people, and like I don't have kids, so like I have no control for this, but like the more I train people, the more I treat them kind of like children, the better things go. Like, you know, hey, you get a dessert tonight. Like, "Oh, we get dessert? We're going to McDonald's after this? Sure, whatever the fuck ever, right? Or like, watch me dive. Hey, that dive was amazing. Fucking stupid kid doesn't know how to fucking dive. He almost ate shit on the, but whatever. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, yeah, great job. Like, a little bit of like positive reinforcement. Now, obviously, this goes best when coupled with good behavior,
Yeah.
right? Because it is a teaching tool. Like it is positive reinforcement is a really potent teaching tool.
Mhm.
So if you are applying these skills and layering on these skills for them to learn, to become more efficient, to challenge muscles or energy systems, as you said, and you can pair that with a good job. And it's like you got to know how to sell it, right? Like some guys, it's a dab up at the end of the session. Some it's after. I have clients every single rep. I gotta say something, dog. And if I don't say something, like their brain goes off into like, oh god, did I tear an Achilles? Like whoa, no, it's cool. Like it was great. But like if
Yeah.
you can learn that, because there's a cadence there, right? There's a cadence of like, okay, what's the skill? What's the exercise? What's my level of intervention? Like I got some people stonewall. I can't bridge it. I got to meet them right where they're at. This is the exercise they can do. They get frustrated as shit if they can't do something. Okay, you
Hmm.
get the exercise you can do, not one advanced, not what, right here. And I sit back and I don't sit. You know, maybe I say something, maybe I don't, but I don't introduce that frustration to them. I had some people who like the mental challenge. Like, okay, hold on, like inside of that foot, and then I switch. Like, yeah, dude, I'll have you fucking doing cartwheels in here if that's what you like. I have some people who every single rep I need to reinforce them. I have some people that, you know, once a quarter I go, hey, you've been really making some strides. And they go, great, thanks, man, appreciate it. And it's like that's the general fitness thing. Like that's the stuff that, you know, you and I went into competitive weightlifting in some form or fashion around the world, went to graduate school, had an undergrad degree, surrounded ourselves with people who just talk this language. And 10 years after that fucking escapade, I go, oh, I think I get it now. I think I get it. Nobody gives a fuck. What do they give a fuck about? A good dab up, a high five, a good job, a pat on the back. Because you know why? The second they leave, most people are just getting fucking torn apart. Most people go to work and they're just getting absolutely obliterated. So it's like, no, that may be the only high five that person gets
Yeah.
their entire life. You're the high five purveyor. So be that.
Yeah. That's so true. And a big part of that too is like people that you train regularly, you're probably spending more time with them than almost anyone in their life. Like more like genuine time with them that's not oriented around like, being at work, like accomplishing some task or like meeting some quota or whatever it is, or like responsibilities at home and like shit like that. So it's like you have to form a relationship with that person over something, right? And you're going to spend a lot of time with them. So the more that you can make them feel like there's a reward to being in that situation, the better that relationship's going to be. So you said something in there that I think is like spot on. And it's how I treat all of my clients. And it's understanding like their appetite for frustration and like skill development, right? Is how much can I challenge this person in a session? And there's going to be some people, like you said, that they'll take to that challenge. They'll be like, oh, there's a step above this. Like I need to get better at this so I can do that. And like, if you're a trainer, there's always a progression. It's never like you've never reached the end. You've never reached the point where it's like, all right, you now have mastered exercise. Go into the world and be a master of exercise. It's like, no, we can always make this more challenging or more difficult one way or another. And that's like most people that are just in it for general fitness, they're in a very mediocre place in terms of their capabilities. So it doesn't take much. Like I have a client I've been working with for like 2 years. She's an older lady. She's like super grateful. She's super consistent. And like we've been working on lunges for a long period of time. First time she came to me, we did 5 lunges and she was sore for a week. So I was like, all right, I need you to get better at these because you're having hip pain. And a big part of that is like your hips don't function well enough to do this like in the capacity that you need to. So like if we get better at this, your hip pain's gonna get better. So we got better at lunges. And now she's pretty good. She does like stationary lunges with like 30-pound dumbbells, which, for a human, that's not bad. That's for a general human that doesn't give a shit about exercise. That's not bad, especially an older woman. And she's like, so do we just keep progressing this until the dumbbells get heavier? Because these are getting pretty heavy. And I'm like, no. Once you master these at, I just gave an arbitrary weight because like she was timid about like a certain dumbbell. Like, am I gonna have to do these with the 40s? I'm like, no. Once you get to the 35s, then we're gonna elevate your back foot. And it's
Shut
gonna
the
be a
fuck
whole
up.
new exercise. Yeah.
Craziness.
It's
Yeah, dude, that's
insane.
like children. This is literally, yeah, right?
Yeah, just blew her
Wow.
fucking mind. So it's like some people are gonna like they don't need to focus on that next step right now. They just need to put all of their mental focus into getting better at the thing in front of them. But other people, like I coach a lot of weightlifters, they need to know like, oh, like this is a snatch or this is a split jerk, and like this is the thing that I need to master. And like really what I need to do then is like get them to pull back. It's like, whoa, you're not ready for that yet. Let's just focus on like your overhead stability. Let's focus on your leg drive through the pool, like very specific isolated tasks within the overarching skill or the overarching goal. So like one of the principles that I'll use to progress exercise is like moving from more isolation to more integration, right? Like someone with a very low skill level, like we have to do, if we want to train a shoulder properly, we might not be able to do a dumbbell press. So maybe what we need to do is like work on the delts specifically and like work on the lats, allowing them to get into more of an overhead position. Maybe we need to work on their triceps in isolation. And like someone with a higher skill level, maybe I can just do like an incline dumbbell press and it works like all of these things at once simultaneously. It's like that could be a progression that could take someone fucking years to go through is getting them to be able to overhead press in a way that they're getting an adaptable stimulus. So it's like, all right, I just set a framework of goals for the amount of time it takes to getting you to do a dumbbell press, so that we can make this whole process so much more efficient by just like doing a general shoulder warm up and then doing some dumbbell press. But that might be 6 different exercises for someone that doesn't have the coordination or the capacity to be able to do that. So it's like things like this will all play into exercise selection. Is it like knowing their appetite for frustration or skill learning or progression, and then also understanding like there's very concrete ways that we can progress this, and we can do this in like a very linear fashion if we understand how to isolate specific variables. And as we isolate those variables and they start to show a level of competency there, then we're going to continue to progress those in a more integrated way. So it's like challenging shoulder stability now with, we started with a skull crusher, or I'm sorry, we started with maybe a tricep push down, and then from there we move into the overhead position or some sort of overhead position like a skull crusher, where they now have to stabilize the shoulder complex to be able to train their tricep. And there's, all these things feed into one another, and there's a process that they can go through that, like, you as a trainer, it's up to you how much of your hand you want to show to them, right? And it's getting buy-in around that. It's like, all right, we need to focus at getting really good at this one thing right now. And you might not tell them what's next. They might not even think that there's anything past that. But then once they start to like master that and they feel like, oh yeah, I've got this. And it's like, all right, I know you got that. Now let's try this thing. And it's like, it just blows their mind, because it's like, oh, I thought I knew how to use my shoulder, but now I realize I don't. And that things like that can keep them engaged for a longer period of time as well.
And that's where I think the scientific nihilist trainer really honestly, they're just going to struggle for no reason. And it's like, because this scientific nihilism that's come out of research based masquerading as evidence based, for people who don't have enough client or professional experience to rest on anything else other than what's in PubMed, this is where it just makes your profession really unenjoyable. Like every time, and I don't engage anymore. Like I'm really, I gotta say, over the course of the last couple of years, even down to the like, I try to minimize. Like, look, there was a time where if you were doing dumb shit on the internet, I'm probably gonna say something. I may have done a video. I did a reaction video years ago to like, and I don't even want to bring it up because I don't want to perpetuate it. But I did that 10 years ago in my office in Mountain View. I was that guy. I was ready to go, dog. Like
Uh,
juice to the gills, angry as fuck, in enough debt to kill a small horse. And if you said something dumb, boy, was I coming for you. But who the fuck was I? Who the fucking, who the fuck am I now? I mean, no one then if I'm a no one now. But it's like my weaning off process was like, okay, I'm gonna go from talking shit and making videos to like texting this to my friends. Like I'm gonna text this video to all my friends and just talk shit behind your back. Because I don't want to deal with the comments. And now I really try to like not do that at all. Like if I see something dumb, and look, you're probably like, what are you talking about? You send me shit all the time. And that's because it's you. And you're the
yeah.
last person to know all of the dumb shit that I do in my life. Or you're the first person to know all the dumb shit I do. But I think it's like, whenever I see people who are heavily scientistic, and I'm using that word deliberately, I see people who this are darn, you're not gonna last.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there anymore. Scientistic people who engage in arguments of rhetoric, who in arguments of logic, arguments of science, in an inexact scientific, the human science is an inexact science. It's like you will not find the fulfillment in this career and that's how I started winning arguments. Was like, I'll just be doing this for a job longer than you are. And
Right.
that's it's not that showing up is half the battle. I know a lot of people who show up and are retarded, but it's like, if you can show up and not be retarded, like you are three-quarters of the way there. But it's just like, do you want to enjoy your life and what you do when you go to work every day? Because trying to fight tooth, nail, and claw to explain why that your client saw you do this last exercise with the client you just had before them, and it's now their last exercise on their program, and then you just being like, well, everyone's kind of the same, and the research shows this, and this, and all of that other stuff doesn't really do anything. So we're just going to add more weight to the bar, and that's how you're going to get better. What kind of day of work is that? What do you like? It's like you're living Groundhog Day on the hour interval, just doing the same shit. It's like, no, like gamify it, if not for no one else other than yourself. It's like, Jesus Christ, I would be bored to fucking tears if I just the next person was up, ran the same program as the different person that was just there. It's like, one, you're gonna get made. Someone's gonna be like, wait a minute, hold on. I saw the fucking, we're doing this. Why isn't he doing the same thing as I'm doing? And it's like, that's obviously a faux pas. But I think at the end of the day, it's like, your job's just more interesting.
Mhm.
Your job's just more interesting in like, in the saturation, the colors, the tones, the gradients in between, all of just the generic shit. It's like, I don't know, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. It's like, let's try this. How did that feel? Oh, that's right. Like, I just couldn't imagine a job go work at the fucking post office. If that's how you want to live your life and you want to be that, like, no, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. It's like, yeah, there's a machine where you can go be a cog and be that. But that's not what this profession is. And it is 100, it is so consistent, the correlation between the ultra scientific, the ultra research based, and people who hate their job. And now look, this is a sliding scale. The ultra retarded seem like they have a ton of fun and probably shouldn't. But there's a conscientious middle ground of science and philosophy where it's like, okay, you're gonna enjoy your job because you're doing good and doing well. And that comes from the nuance, the personalization, the little victories, like giving a shit about the answer to questions like this. Like, how do we program for, because this is the easiest question to answer for someone who doesn't like their job. Oh, it's super easy. Everyone needs to do this, and this. What?
Right.
Dude, you are so replaceable. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's like, I've had people, actually, a lot more people recently ask me, like, how AI integrates into training. And I think there's a lot of answers to that. But, like, if you can make yourself irreplaceable by AI, that's your job security, right? Because I start off by saying, like, yes, here's a general framework for this, but you need to play the man. You need to be able to adjust real time when things don't go according to plan. And that is probably going to be the majority of the time if you're working with real people, right? If not, then like they could just go into ChatGPT and say, I need to do fitness. I don't have any goals. Tell me how to do it. And it'll tell them to walk 10,000 steps a day and do, cardio this many minutes a week and do leg exercises and arm, like whatever. Like, yes, ChatGPT can tell you how to do that because there is an answer and it can be finite and it's probably not that different for most people. But the thing that does make a difference is when it doesn't go according to plan, how can you adjust? How can you interpret the information that they're giving you? And can you still give them that same experience of getting enjoyment? Like, you have a client that comes in, you were going to do a shoulder day with them and they slept on their shoulder wrong and now their shoulder hurts. Like, all right, I think we can get you out of shoulder pain today. Let's scrap what we were going to do and let's try X, Y, and Z. That's the shit that's going to get you to be irreplaceable. That's how you can get AI to not take your job. Is that if you actually can understand there's another person on the other side of this and they don't give a shit what you had programmed for that day. They care that their shoulder hurts and they don't want it to hurt anymore. It's like, okay, if you can solve that problem, that's what matters the most. And like, yes, there are better and worse ways to go about this, but if you accomplish that task, then you're doing a good job, at least in their eyes. I'm sure there's a lot of retarded people that can still get people out of pain, but like, you're doing it. You're doing what they asked you to do. So being able to pivot in real time and make those changes when it's appropriate to, and even a step further than that, foreseeing when those changes might be appropriate to make before there's a problem or an issue, like in terms of load management, fatigue management. Like, I have a client I talk about all the time, and then he asked me if I was talking about him because he listens to the podcast. So I'm going to shout out Garrett Porter. He's a man. He's been with me like, yeah,
Hey,
fuck, like 5 years. I
big
feel like
shout
he's been
out,
with me. Yeah, but
legend.
like he's taking boards this weekend. Like, probably right now as we're talking. And like every single time he has finals or like a big test or something like that or boards, like he's good up into it, and then there's like that cortisol dump or whatever the fuck it is, and he just like crashes out afterwards. And I'm like, all right, let's like fuck off lifting this week, study for the tests, and then we'll like ramp up the next week, because all the evidence shows us that every time we've run into something like this in the past, it shows us that training is going to go to shit next week. So let's be preemptive here. Let's downregulate this week. Let's let you focus on something that's way more important, because you're paying a lot of money for this degree in this test. Like, let's focus on you doing well there, and then we'll pick up with training where you are after that point. Like, let's not anticipate like what training is going to be able to be like. Let's proactively take the training down. We'll take the fatigue down because allostatic load is going to be up. And then we'll get back to regular training when we can, but we'll see what that looks like as we introduce training back in after boards next week. And like, those are the things, those are the decisions that you need to be able to make if you have a client that has, a stressful period at work, or like longer days, or a lot of travel, or they're going on vacation. Like, those are the decisions that if you can preemptively plan for them, because sometimes it'll have to be reactive and you'll have to think on your feet, and that's great. That means that you're good at your job if you can do that, and you can do that well. But you're great at your job if you could preemptively do that stuff, and you can really focus on like, all right, I know that this is what's going to happen. So if I can get you to buy into the way that I think this process should go right now, then we're going to have better results on the other side of that. And then maybe on the user end, like the other side of it, the client never really notices a difference. But like, if had you not done that, then there would have been a big difference, a big drop off in performance. So I think that's like a key piece to exercise selection, like a assignment of stimulus, that it really takes, like, that's when you've reached the level that like, all right, you're not good at this, you're great at this.
Yeah, I mean, there's at a certain point, you're like doing Jedi mind tricks. Like you're
Yeah.
looking around corners without looking around corners, and it's just yeah. But the thing is, you have to be open to what there is to learn and what data really matters. And it's not, and I can't give you a PubMed ID for that. It's
Hmm.
just, dude, it's how like it's. I couldn't imagine hating what I do every day and fighting the urge to enjoy it in the pursuit of being right.
Yeah.
Like that just doesn't make sense to me at all. Like why people are so gung ho to do that. But I think, because this question is twofold: the most common question and the hardest question.
Yeah.
General fitness goal people, that's why people hire, like, very, very specific. You work with pro athletes that have multiple coaches for the one sport because the
Yeah.
goal is so specific. It's like, all right, if I'm going to look around corners, I'm going to get people who've been around that corner before, right? That's what I'm going to do. But it's like, trying to figure out where people are and where they want to go. I think that's, again, probably the most common problem you're going to have to solve, and the most difficult. So usually the hardest problems to solve are the rarest ones to solve,
Yeah.
right? Like this is a twofold, and I think it's why there's so much attrition in our industry.
Hmm.
Like I talk to facility owners, I talk to coaches who just like burned out and like just couldn't do it, and it's like, yeah, because you didn't enjoy it, but
Yeah.
you chose to make it a framework that you didn't enjoy because I don't know, you succumb to some peer pressure or something, or some tradition of the way things, like, it can be whatever the fuck you want it to be, and you can still get people to what like, if they don't have a goal, great, you get to make up the solution and the problem. What's the issue? Why do you hate your job?
Yeah.
Right. But to be sympathetic, like that is tough if you don't have the fundamental tools. Like if you don't know how to do everything, like, okay, we're going to proactively Jedi mind trick this. You know how, why you can do that so well? Because you still train yourself, number one, and you still work and coach with people all the fucking time. So you have the aggregate of data of like, I remember part poor boards. It was a fucking disaster.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, I know it's going to be shitty. Right. And I think that's where it's like, podcasts like this from people who aren't podcasters, who are practitioners, it helps you peer around the corner,
Hmm.
right? And I think if you put, and I don't know if I love the term like social media diet, but you guys understand what I mean. Like if you put people in that place, like, and you start to consume from practitioners rather than the rhetoric drum beaters that are just trying to be right on the internet. You're
Mhm.
just going to find it's just this whole world of like a really what the fuck was the word in front of it? A really enjoying? No. There's a profession that you can enjoy. Why I struggle with that, I have no idea. That's just on the other side of like getting away from all of these biases and traditions of like
Mhm.
just 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 generalizing your career to death. It's like there are careers that are very general where you show up every day and do the exact same thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that's not what this is.
Mhm.
This is the people business, dog. You hear crazy ass stories of like whether it's work, whether it's personal. Like, I don't need a TV. I got clients.
Yeah.
Whatever they're making on Netflix, I got crazier stories. Seen it. So it's I just think it's a great question because it is a rare question that's both very common and very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree. And that's like, I agree with the point that like doing this stuff is the best way to solve these problems or understand how to solve these problems because fuck man, I like you said, training, like I've been training, I don't know, 25 years now, like training myself and training other people, maybe 15 of it. It's like, it's hard to find a situation I haven't been in yet. And I don't necessarily think of myself as an authority in this space, but I do speak with a lot of authority on these things because I've solved these problems so many times. And like, it's rare that I'll run into a situation that like, oh, this is the very first time I'm seeing this, or like maybe it's a shade of a different problem that I've solved with like maybe different variables, but like a lot of it is just dealing with people. And the more you put yourself out there and you have to deal with people in what I'd consider relatively high stakes scenarios, like they're paying you to solve this problem. Like how much more of a high stakes scenario is it going to be in training? Like that's it. Like if you don't solve this problem, they're not going to come back, and then you're not going to have that income, and then you can't afford to eat and have a roof over your head and shit like that. So it is relatively high stakes, and I think of it that way every single decision I make with every single client I'm with, whether it's a professional athlete or it's a 62-year-old lady that like could fall down the stairs. Like it is high stakes, and if you think of it as high stakes and you put some importance on every single decision that you're making, because that's a reflection of you and that's a reflection of the results that you're being paid to get, then you're going to do a lot of learning really quickly because that kind of bakes in the idea of self-assessment into the process. Is that okay? If I make the wrong decision, which I do all the fucking time, and I have a lot more in the past than I do now, but I still do. Like I have decisions that like I'll have to make like really quick, and I'm like, fuck, I could have done that better. And that's every single day I'm working with someone that happens. It's like, all right, if you adopt that mindset of like, I've been in this situation before, but it's not autopilot because I can be better in this situation this time than I was last time. And every single time you're in that situation, you have that self assessment. You're like, all right, like I did well, I did poorly, I did okay. And you think about how you can be better in that situation the next time, then that's how you're going to get that enjoyment because you're constantly getting better. You're going to be getting better results for your clients. You're going to be refining your communication, your delivery, the way that you assess where your clients are and you can meet them where that you're at. A lot of it boils down to just getting exposure to these situations. The more that you expose yourself to them, the more you assess how you did in that situation, then that's just going to help you refine that skill so that the next time you're faced with a similar situation or a similar decision is you now have evidence that you can base, like real evidence that you can base your decision making off of. And it's not like some Instagram post with a PubMed ID, but it's like your experiential evidence is that this is how this worked last time in this scenario and this is how I performed. Now let's see if I can get myself to perform better this time in this situation.
Yeah, it's almost like just like being a better person makes you better at your job. Such
Yeah,
a wild concept. So crazy.
crazy. It's
That can't
nuts.
be it. But you know, I mean, I like the idea of I like the metacognition that goes into answering this question,
Hmm.
right? Like you need to take a look at your process. It's an audit essentially,
Yep.
right? Like what is so nice about these 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 blank slate cases is that they're both a mirror and a window, right? They are equal parts, and like that's tricky, right? Like, then guess who's getting interrogated on the other side of that? You motherfucker! Like,
Right.
your entire value as a person, because it's like, look, you get to be an athlete, like, oh, I did my hamstring twice last season. They don't have to like you. But if they think you can fix your problem, easy. Okay, sick. Whatever. I'm gonna listen to my music. I can fucking do my shit. You're gonna still be here because I'll fix your hamstring. But it's just general. You got anything wrong with you? No. Fuck. Shit. I need to play ball on every single dimension that this career has to offer, and I need to show up every day for a job interview and hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
And I think recalibrating, like you said towards the end there, like the severity of the consequence is such a useful tool for people who hyper specialize all the time, like pulling your head back into, whether it's gen pop, if you've worked with athletes, or even a different sport. I did a post on this like a few weeks ago, but like, seeing problems through a different sport. It just, the biggest problem that I think everyone tries to move away from gen pop, but some of the best coaches I know are gen pop coaches, because
Yeah.
they have that fucking interrogation window mirror in front of them every single day, and they're bobbing and weaving, and they're playing the man but doing progressions, and like they're entertaining, and they're conscientious, and they're careful, and they're cautious, but they know how to put, like, watching, like, and I've, you go to gyms every now and then, you see someone and you go, this guy can move around a gym floor. Like, you spend 2.5 hours in a gym working out, you see a guy train 3 clients, and you're like, oh, that's tough. Like, that's grabbing gen pop and then making that an enjoyable experience for your job. Insane. Shout out anyone that does that. Like, so
Yeah.
much of the industry, I think, it glorifies and glad hands people who work with pro athletes. But as someone who's done both, gen pop way harder.
Yeah.
Not even close. Like,
Yeah.
athletes are a joke. And we're like, showing up to train athletes, sure. High stakes, a lot of money, whatever. The championship rings, Stanley Cups, World Series, NBA championships, Achilles, hamstring, ACL. Yeah, I don't know. I got a couple kids. Oh fuck! Like, that's the real shit. So, to anyone out there who's slogging it, and not slogging it, that's the wrong way. If you're slogging it, fucking enjoy your job. Think of a better way to make it more enjoyable for you and your clients, and it'll probably be better. But anyone out there who shows up to Gen Pop clients every day, you're the Jedi. Like, that's where the hard shit is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with like athletes are hyper specific problems, so a lot of times the answers are pretty similar. But with Gen
Mhm.
Pop, like general problems, there's so many different ways that could even be possible to solve those problems, and you really have to thread the needle and kind of figure out what's the right one for that client. So yeah,
Wild. Yeah.
respect.
Shout out. Respect on your name. All right. That's a wrap for this week. We'll make this happen. I think we can do this. So hopefully the quality wasn't too bad. Like we mentioned off the cuff, I'm on the road for the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna do the laptop version and the turkey burger sweet baby Ray's fucking accoutrement version. But
Classic.
oh man, I remember we used to eat at the beginning of the podcast and people got mad. I was like, it's a fitness podcast. Much to my point about podcasters and podcasts. It's like
Yeah.
high quality content, production value. It's there. It's there. I'm seeing 1080p off the front facing laptop camera. So we're not totally out of the realm, but hopefully what we lacked for in resolution, we make up for in some sort of clarity around the content. But we'll wrap for this week. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Jay, good to see you. It's nice to be back.
Always,
Good to
brother.
see the Zin feature.
Yep. Yep. We got
Yeah.
it. We got it back.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.